Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so far today I've just done some cleaning and whatnot. I tried to export my catabasis vlog, the second part of it, but my laptop was not having it with me. Like right now I don't want to say anything because I fear I'll jinx it, but I'm trying to export my the reading vlog you saw last week, so yeah, I just gave up on trying it because I got so impatient. Like, I don't know what was going on with my laptop, but yeah. And, oh yeah, and I've not been feeling the best today. How did I forget? I don't know. I think I just slept on my back funny, and it's been bothering me all day, so yeah, and my shoulder hurts because as you saw in my last vlog, I did get my vaccinations for the flu and COVID, so yeah, but I guess that's typically the norm. I've had it worse, so yeah. And I've also done quite a bit of reading really, of Goblin by Josh Malerman. And I'm on page 144, and I don't have many thoughts on it so far. It's fine, I just don't really feel connected to the characters, but I do find the stories interesting. I don't know, they seem a bit over the top at times. Like the guy who he cuts off body parts of a dead guy and sends it to his girlfriend, and it's a new relationship, and the girl's like, oh, I want you to prove our love. He sent her a towel, he sent her the film, and then she's like, I want you to pull a Vincent Van Gogh and cut off your ear, and he tries to do that, and he's not able to, and that's when he tells his friend. And then the guy decides, actually, Richard, and breaks into his house and just, for some reason, goes over the top and chops his friend into pieces and parts. And yeah, then we get the second story of this guy, Walter, who he's transformed his entire apartment, taken down the walls, and remodeled it so there's no nooks and crannies and whatnot, because he's had stories from family members where they've all seen ghosts and he's afraid of them, and his biggest fear is being scared to death. And yeah, I don't know if it's this, like, he's historian and he's this way too much history, and it's gone to his head, like the history of the land, the history of Goblin, how there were spirits in one previously, how the goblins history is this, I guess, the common way of old historical American towns, in the sense the British or the white people came and kicked out the indigenous people from their land, and this one indigenous leader, Chief Blackwater, he was able to kick out the white people by making them think they were going mad and whatnot, and then he went mad. He signed a bad deal, the Indians then signed a bad deal with the white people, who it was a deal made out of signed by sand, where the ink was like made out of sand and would fall apart, and it was a whole thing. And we learned that there was this thing about the woods where there was a witch who lives in it, and no one in town goes there, like, as it isn't allowed, but also people are generally afraid of these woods. Even teenagers who don't really care for authority, they don't even go into these woods. So once it with these woods, I've noted, but Walter, he is having nightmares and is seeing that people, he does have his landlady, and I do like their dynamic, but we see throughout his story how he becomes extremely paranoid, and at one point even puts on black chalk on his face, like indigenous people did. Or do you want me to know? and then he sees the ghost of the dead chief, and it scares him to death. And the third story I'm on is this guy named Nash who's hosting his grand 60th birthday party. Like, it's this grand thing. He's known as the greatest hunter in the town, and wanted to see the celebration of his birthday. And as well, he is a great hunter. He is the best in town, but the one thing he's never hunted is an owl, and that's because they're not allowed to do so, I believe. And we just get the story of how the owls came to Goblin and whatnot. So yeah, overall, this finding is fine. Like, I just don't really feel connected. I don't really know if it's the writing or whatnot, but I just don't really feel like I'm in the story, if that makes sense. So yeah, so far it's fine, but I'm gonna keep reading. Like, I am intrigued on this. So yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm going to lie down, so it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot, and I also went on a bit of a walk, got my steps in, did my exercise for the day, so that's good for me. And yeah, and I also did quite a bit of reading of Goblin, and I'm on page 234, and I'm still just feeling mad about it. Like, it's fine. Where I left off yesterday with that story is we see Neil and his friends, they go to the Northwoods, and Neil, he recruits his hunting buddies, and they don't know where they're going. They are suspicious, and in essence, like, the way he's driving, it's like he's avoiding the police and whatnot, and then it is confirmed where they are when they pull up to the woods, and they leave one of them who in a car as he is passed out, and Neil and two other friends go in. He has one friend, Shaw, stay behind with the rope which he has tied around Shaw's waist and then around, like, the other two waists, his and someone else's waist, I think, and takes the other with him. And the guy with him, he is quite nervous about what Neil is doing and scared they will be lost. As we learn this trail, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not straightforward. It's zigzaggy. They are going back to where they came from. Like, it's not straightforward. And we see how now he finds and kills the owl, and then this leaves his friend behind to be killed by other owls. He figured the one who initially brought the owl to Goblin, the owl was attached to him because of his jacket, and that's what he did to his friend. And yeah, with Shaw, we see how his fears of this witch who's been rumored to live in the woods gets to him, and he starts seeing things and freaking out. And he's like, I'm 60 years old and I'm freaking out. He's behaving like that. And yeah, he goes to look for his friends and finds the one friend who's been ripped apart, and we get some lovely details on that, and then sees that now is gone, like, left him behind. And now we turn to the party, and he goes to, I guess it's a separate building from the house where he just collects the animals he's hunted down, and he's admiring the owl when his wife comes in and surprises him with the owl. And she sees that he starts crying, and she thinks he's being ungrateful when he starts crying, as she doesn't know what he did in the store. This ends with him crying. And the next story, Pesto, this one is the one it's really about a magician, and I started to skim it because I just didn't care for it. Like, didn't care for the magician stuff and the information, the facts about it. Like, just didn't really care, personally. And he started with a magic show that's outside of Goblin, and a man named Dick is watching a magician named Roman Emperor during his show. his assistant Maggie throws an axe at him, and somehow he is able to stop it, so it's like levitating over his head. And then he has like an audience member come up for an axe on him, and he's also able to stop it. So yeah, we see how Dick he's looking for the strings, but doesn't see them. And after the show, he goes to the dressing room to give his compliments to a woman who tells him he is going to Goblin. Woman, yeah. And we move on to Peter, who is a student at Goblin Middle, and he is a huge fan of Woman Emperor. Like, he's collected magazines and whatnot. It's not just of Woman that he's a fan of, but as the magic thing that he's a fan of. And he hears that Woman is coming to perform in Goblin, and he knows it's a show his parents won't let him go to because a woman has this reputation of performing dirty or dark magic, and the show's at midnight, and he worries if he asks his parents he'll be grounded for even asking. So, and he is worried that tickets will sell out, as apparently everyone in Goblin Middle is getting tickets and is planning to go. So yeah, he has to wait till his mom is not home to take $8 from her. And we learn that Pete, he is a budding magician, and he spends a lot of his time in the only magic shop in town, and has, I guess, not revamped, but helped the owner kind of rediscover the craft, I guess. And we learn from Pete's perspective, the other magicians once tried to get women to share his secrets as they were afraid he is better than them, and when he refused, they blacklisted him from the circuit. And as they claim he was doing dirty magic, and we see Woman's life story, how he was introduced to magic by a street performer and became enamored by it, and how he knew his father would be upset about how serious he took the hobby, and how he used magic to convince his father to not force him to go to university and allow him to do magic. And we see him how he rehearses, and how he absolutely failed his first show because he didn't have the charm the audience to hold their attention, and how he actually failed. And how a decade later this woman shows up in his apartment and he strikes a deal with her that he'll be a great magician and he will give her bodies because she's restless. And yeah, we see how he becomes a great magician, and how this woman gave him his assistant Maggie. And he knows he should have guilt over what he did, but he decides not to. And yeah, we start to see how the other magicians are jealous of him. And overall, I'm still just, I don't know, finding this book to be fine. Like, it's not bad, but, and I am still intrigued on what the point is in reading these stories, because some of them are quite interesting, I guess. But yeah, with this particular one, I did skim it because of the fact that information is quite repetitive with the whole magic thing, and I just personally I'm not really a fan of magicians and whatnot. I just don't really care for them. So yeah, overall I'm just finding this to be fine, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see. So it's the next day, and I've just done quite a bit of work, and I want my own, and I'm going to film this update before I do, because I know I'll look like a disaster. So yeah, but yeah, I did quite a lot of work today, and I did do quite a lot of reading of Goblin. Putting me on page 320, and we end the story pesto of with learning of what exactly Robin and Maggie do to give the woman's promoter bodies. They dig up the old bodies, and every time they visit them, just send them up there, up to the woman. Like, there's no mention or description of how if it's this the body simply float up there, or if woman has to do something to send them up there. Like, there's no explanation. It's just we dig them up, they go up, and then they fill the graves up with logos, and we get, I guess, descriptions of how Maggie gets off this, like gets off on it. I mean, how she will make sounds as if she's having sex. So yeah, lovely. And we see how woman, he doesn't seem to care anymore of what he's doing. Like, he's sold his soul to get his dreams, essentially. And when they're in Goblin, they've just dug up the bodies, and now they need to find new bodies. And at the end of the show, woman always asks for volunteers for people who will disappear, and everyone is so eager and to be the chosen one. They're so excited and hopeful, like, choose me, choose me, choose me. Like, even their parents are encouraging it, as they believe it's that's part of that, and that's how the book ends. Not book, I mean, how that story ends with, don't you want to disappear? Sort of thing, so. And with the story I went next and I just finished, it makes up Zoo. We mean Dirk? D-I-R-K. I have no idea how to pronounce it. And he works at a zoo after his friend challenged him to switch jobs with him. Dirk initially worked in the sanitation department. He's the guy who picked up trash off the street, and his friend was the one who worked at the zoo, so this one. And he works there like then throughout a week. He's the tour guide there. And yet he complains he doesn't have time to go out to grab things with his friend, to hang out with his friend, to try and find a woman. Dirk is someone who wants to have a wife and whatnot, and yet he goes on and goes to get his second job at the slaughterhouse that takes up his weekend. Like the timeline of this story was just quite confusing, because we see woman, why do I keep saying that? We see Dirk as he's working both jobs already, and yet in the latter half of the story we see him get this second job. I don't know, for me it had a bit confusing. And at both places he is mainly a tour guide, and there is always like the irony of, oh, he's working with live animals and also with the dead animals. So. And he feels stuck in life, and he does desire to have a wife and to be his own boss, to create his own business, but really like just to have some freedom, like, mentally, I guess. And he feels this kinship essentially to a gorilla at a zoo named Eula, E-U-L-A, who is trapped in a cage, and that's how he sees himself, I guess. And he sees Eula as a woman wanting to be set free, and just like him. And we see how he grapples with life, how there's a darkness that surrounds him and whatnot in his thoughts. I don't know, for me the story was the one that was the most confusing for me, the one I just personally didn't get into whatsoever. And he decides to quit the job at the slaughterhouse and to gain some freedom and to finally have the time to, find a wife. And the night before, he has this dream where he's leading children down a tunnel, and gradually the children are just being taken. And at the end of the tunnel, they realize they are in a cage, being watched by people who are telling them things. And one of them, Dirk turns them around and leads them away from the cage, and they see Eula out of her gorilla costume and as a woman, and this scares the children and makes them ask, how could you do this? I don't know. Dirk is reliving this dream while he's on his last day, and this is when he's losing his mind because he thinks he's working at the zoo doing his last tour, and he thinks he's working at the slaughterhouse, and he's about to give his notice, his 2 weeks notice to the slaughterhouse, and then he gives it to the zoo. I don't know, and he's told he has to kill the gorilla or kill an animal, and he is told he has to kill an animal by his boss at the slaughterhouse, and he does. Who, in reality, he ends up killing Ula, and yeah, he realizes this, and he's in absolute shock when he meets this woman at a bar, and he is trying to impress her, lead her to takes her on a tour around the zoo, and that's when he realizes what he did, and he keeps asking, I worked at the slaughterhouse today, didn't I? And this scares away the woman, obviously, so while Dirk might have gotten some freedom, it did cost him, I guess, his mind and his dreams, because he will never be his own boss, I guess is the message of the story, as he did lose his mind, so yeah, I don't know what to think of the story. This lost me a bit, so yeah. And at this point, this was the point where I was like considering giving up him, but I'm like, I don't know, it's still fine for me. Like, I'm not hating it, and I am curious on the next story. So yeah, that story was just fine, I guess, for a bit weird. And now I did start a couple pages of the next one, which I will discuss in tomorrow's update. So yeah, that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've done some work and whatnot, and throughout today it's just been incredibly dreary. Like, I did go for a walk yesterday after dinner, but today I have no desire to go outside. It looks like it's gonna pour in a second, and yeah. And I did do quite a lot of reading today, and I was able to finish Goblin, and overall, the stories just left me wondering, like, why, and I was a bit confused with some of them. Like, I wish, with some details, I wish we got some more explanations, and I just didn't really feel connected to the book personally, so overall I did give it 3 stars. And with this story, I started reading yesterday and I continued today. We follow this, I guess, local legend in town named Wayne Sherman, who made these hedges and has carved a topiary in honor of people in Goblin's history and those who commissioned him to make topiary out of themselves. And initially, he made the hedges in memory of his wife Molly, who died in her sleep. And this is one thing I was like, because I don't know, it's never told if she had some condition. Like, I wanted to know, because from what I understand, both Wayne and Molly, they were young. Like, they were in their mid-30s when Molly died, so yeah, I'm just wondering, like, why she died, if she had some aneurysm in her brain or if there was a seizure. I'm just curious on that information. I don't know, and someone suggested he makes it into a tourist thing because it's so beautiful and whatnot. And he did. And however, in a hedge, he's hidden something, and when he was mourning his wife, he got drunk at a bar and was outside peeing when he saw the key to the city. Like, in a random bush. Like, how did that key get there? That's also one thing. Because did the mayor put it there? Did someone misplace it? Like, why was it taken in the first place? Like, sorry. And he thought, by possessing the key, he would keep her ghost nearby. He seems to think if he returns the key to the city, he'll be returning these ghosts, all ghosts who of the people who lived and died in Goblin and to the resting place and give Goblin its spirit back in Highlands Mountain. And with this story, a young girl named Margot, she tells him she knows what he hid in the hedges that she found his prize, and she goes to the police, who are extremely creepy and almost unhuman, like with the way they speak. They're like, "You shall show us." Like, it's weird, and they're described like it's like they're blobs, like they're not human people. And no one in Goblin is a fan of them, including Margot's mom, who tells her not to be alone with them, and quickly Margot regrets turning Wayne, and like she thinks she was being a hero, doing something brave, and then he's like, am I actually doing something good, or am I ruining this person's life? And when they can find the key where it was, as Wayne took it when he was planning to leave town, and we get this scene of him like just grabbing all of Molly's stuff and throwing it in his truck, like so more than courage. I do like seeing the love Wayne has for his wife and how that love will never die. Like, people have tried to convince him to, I guess, move on and find another wife, but for him, Molly was the one, and he can't move on from her. He doesn't want to. Like, she was the love of his life, so I knew like how he doesn't want to let her go at all. Because the mourning period never ends. I knew and Wayne, he tries to leave town, and one of the officers pulls him over, and he turns back and trying to get rid of the key, and this officer is following him as he goes back into town and reports they're going to the North Woods, and Margaret, who is a young girl, is tasked with leading them there, and she makes sure they get lost. Like, they were paying more attention to finding Wayne, and they were like, the path she was taking them down, like, she was making sure to make a right turn only when she was able to in one-on. And she is saved by a great owl, who makes the police think it's another owl on a tree when she's hiding in a tree, and she gets out, and her mom's like, we're leaving, Goblin. And the thing and while Wayne is in the woods, the witch shows up in disguise as Molly and takes the key, and that's really the last we see of him. Like, we don't really know if he left the woods or if he's still there. So, and then the epilogue, which Tom makes his delivery to the person who he is supposed to deliver to. Won't open the door, getting cold feet, and the person's like, we were supposed to do it together, but I got cold feet. Like, who's the we? Who's the second person involved? And when Tom enters the house, he learns the thing in the grate is the corpse of the son of Blackwater, who was the great chief of the land that Goblin now lives on, I guess. And the son, he signed this deal in sand that gave the land the right people. Like, it was like just a bad deal. Not a bad deal, but because it was signed in sand, the sun fell off. And the sun, he has come for retribution, and he wants to kill the people who are living on his own. Like, he won't spare a single resident of Goblin, and that's how the book ends, with him having Tom drive him to a party where there'll be a lot of people, to places where there's a large crowding, I guess. And I don't know, I think that would have been a more interesting book. The people afraid of this living corpse. Like, how was he resurrected? So yeah, that's my opinions on Goblin. And yeah, 3 stars. And the next book I will be starting is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this is about... I'm just gonna read the synopsis in the book. Back then, when I was a young woman, there were still witches. That was how Nana Alba always began the stories she told her great granddaughter Minerva. Stories that have stayed with Minerva all her life. Perhaps that's why Minerva has become a graduate student focused on the history of horror literature and is researching the life of Beatrice Tremblay, an obscure author of macabre tales. In the course of assembling her thesis, Minerva uncovers information that reveals that Tremblay's most famous book, The Vanishing, was inspired by a true story. Decades earlier, during the Great Depression, Tremblay attended the same university where Minerva is studying and became obsessed with her beautiful and otherworldly roommate, who then disappeared under mysterious circumstances. As Minerva descends even ever deeper into Tremblay's manuscript, she begins to sense that the malign force that stalked Tremblay and a missing girl might still walk the halls of the campus. These disturbing events also echoed the stories Nana Alba told about her girlhood in 1900s Mexico, where she had a terrifying encounter with a witch. Minerva suspects that the same shadow that darkened the lives of her great-grandmother and Beatrice Tremblay is now threatening her own in 1990s Massachusetts. An academic career can be a punishing pursuit, but it might turn outright deadly when witchcraft is involved. And I'm just very intrigued about this one, and yeah, I think that's all for now. I still have some work I need to do, so I will be finishing that up, and yeah, that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've done quite a bit of work and whatnot, and it's been like rainy and dreary all day, so I'm sorry for the lighting, but it's been like that all day, so yeah, quite beautiful to look outside the window, but yeah. And I need to do quite a bit of reading of Bewitching, and I'm on page 78, and I'm only in the beginning, I think, but I'm definitely intrigued to see where the story goes. We meet Minerva, who she's working on her master's thesis on this author named Beatrice Tremblay, and Minerva, she goes to this university called Stonehenge, which is like a university in Massachusetts, and she's working there as like the resident director, the person who makes sure that those who live on campus, they're behaving and whatnot, and she's there on a scholarship to get good grades, like not good grades, I mean, she's on a scholarship where she will have to be the best, continue to be the best. And we see how Minerva, she's stuck in her writing and has pushed her friends away, wanting to disfigure herself. She wants to get her hands on letters and journals that Beatrice might have written, as they would tell Minerva what kind of person Beatrice was, what she cared about, and her beliefs. And Minerva compares this to how we know what we know about Lovecraft because of his correspondence. However, the letters, they're in the hands of this woman named Caroline Yates, whose secretary will return Minerva's calls, and Minerva was able to get an invitation to brunch with Caroline when her grandson drunkenly invites her. And Caroline allows her to examine the letters and journals on two conditions: that she can take them out of the house, and Caroline, I guess, sets the day and time and how long Minerva is able to examine the letters. Like on the first meeting, Minerva only has 1 hour to examine the letters, and that's it then. And Minerva also talks about her great-grandmother, Nana Alba, who would tell her stories about a family member who vanished and said when she was a young woman they were witches, which I guess sparked Minerva's intrigue about witches and about New England's history to them and the horrors that occurred in New England because of the witch trials and whatnot. And we do follow Abba as a young woman living in a farming community in Mexico, how she's excited about her uncle's visit and the way she talks about him and how jealous she is at the idea of that he might have a lover. It just makes it sound like she is in love with him, that she's, I don't know, fascinated by him. There's another word I'm trying to think of, but it's like on the tip of my tongue and it's so annoying. But also, I think she's also in love with what he represents because he is from Mexico City, and the idea of living in Mexico City where there are parties, where she won't have to be working on a farm, something she doesn't like to do, and how she can be a proper lady. Like the idea of being able to do that very much excites her, and she currently, like, her life is like, she does have to help her mom on the farm and practically be a governess to her younger siblings who are out of control. She deserves to go to the city. Yeah. Then there's also the issue of what to do with the farm. Prior to her father's death, the farm, it seems like, hadn't been doing so well, and since his passing, they've been approached by a neighboring family with an offer to buy the land, and Abba's brother, who is the head of the family, he refuses, as it is all he's ever known, and it has been in the family for a long time, and is an inheritance. And I kind of like that because, I mean, the land is as much part of the family as Abba is, as much as her siblings are, so it's all they've ever really known, this family. Giving that up, having to sell it and let someone else control it, like that idea just doesn't sound appealing to them. And we also do get Beatrice's perspective. I'm guessing this is like from the journals she wrote, and we learn how she and Virginia met during the Great Depression when they were assigned to be roommates at Stonehenge. How Virginia, who was the inspiration behind Beatrice's book The Vanishing, if it was. Sorry, Minerva, there we are. My head was going through different names of the characters. Sorry. Minerva finds out for Caroline that prior to Beatrice's death, that she was actually writing a book about Virginia's disappearance. Decades after it occurred, like, they never, it seems like, got answers to what happened to Virginia. There were reports that she went away with someone her family wouldn't approve, or maybe bad for her social status. So yeah, I'm curious if we're gonna find out what happened to Virginia. And we see how Virginia and Caroline, they always just fought, as they didn't see eye to eye. As Caroline, she was very proper and whatnot, and thought Virginia was like represented everything that that those who are in a higher social class should not be representing. She didn't dress like how she should have been dressing. She didn't wear gloves or a hat. Like, she, in Caroline's eyes, was unladylike. And we learned that Beatrice had fallen in love with Virginia, and when she disappeared, is trying to figure it out. And there apparently seems to be a link to something that happened on Halloween in a seance that occurred. I don't know. Beatrice's journal or perspective at this premise quite, I guess, vague. So yeah, that's all I read today. And honestly, I am intrigued as to see where this book goes, because I have no idea. So yeah, that's all for now. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. The town next to mine, their historical society was having this tag sale, and yeah, I went. And there was a lot of very beautiful things that I liked, but nothing I really wanted to. They were also selling books, and I did get one. And I got. We always We Have Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson. I'm intrigued about this one a lot, so yeah. And afterwards, I just did my grocery shopping and whatnot, so that's the drift. And I have done quite a bit of reading of The Bewitching, and I'm on page 130, and I'm definitely intrigued. We see that while Abba is in town with her brother in the town to buy supplies, and Arturo, the uncle, he comes by to start talking, and then I guess a neighborhood boy who's part of the family who wanted to buy her from his farm, Valentine. He comes up to them and they need to talk to the brother and they go and find him, and the woman who is like rumored to be part of this, I guess it was a coven of witches, has him by the arm and whatnot, and then that night, Abba, she hears like something being slammed against her door, and then the next morning she goes to wake her brother up, sees his room is kind of in disarray, like the bed's not made and he's not there, and it's apparently very much unlike him to leave his bed on me. And there is a boot on the floor, and when she moves it, there is blood. And one thing I am liking about this book is with Danko, with Arturo, he grew up in this village, and he no longer believes the beliefs of this village. Like, these people are extremely superstitious, they believe in potions and whatnot, and he thinks it's extremely outdated, old-fashioned, like he no longer gets it. So, and I like that because for him, he lives in Mexico City, and it's like, this is the future, this is the present. While it's the idea that those in farming communities, they're very much backwards, they've not caught up to the present. And what I like is the fact he is someone, almost an outsider, and then giving their opinion. And none of them really suspect that anything is wrong with the brother, let me see if I can find his name. Not on this page, he's like typo, I would say. Until they go looking for him eventually, and they find his horse by the river, and they go to Valentine's house as he was supposed to meet up with Valentine that morning for, I think it was like graphics, and Valentine's like never showed up. So there was that as well. I'm in timeline order, I guess, and the next would be Beatrice. And on Halloween, Beatrice, Virginia, Caroline, and a bunch of other people, they were at this party, I guess, that was held by the university, it seems like. And Virginia, at one point, she does disappear briefly. She was looking for Agar, who was her boyfriend, and she followed someone, thinking it was him, but then realized it's not, and then she started going back when she realized someone might be following her, and she's she's getting scared. So, and I'm saying this because I found it, I guess, interesting that in all three timelines there is someone missing. Who in the last timeline there's no connection that oh my god, why am I thinking Minerva, oh my word, has with the person who's gone missing, which is a boy named Thomas, and it seems the only connection they have is that she was the resident director for his dorms. He had to file a bunch of complaints against his roommate Conrad, who was always playing loud music, having people over, just being a distraction. And then suddenly Thomas just dropped out of Stone Ridge. I think he said he was just dropping out, and a lot of people just assumed he was transferring the universities to get away from Conrad, but it seems like he just dropped out. And the thing is, his sister hasn't been like contacted by him, and as well, he dropped out in the wintertime in December, and this is taking place in the summertime, and his stuff is still in his rooms, and they have to be moved to the basement for collateral. And it's just weird because why didn't he come for his stuff? So yeah, I just find it interesting that there is a person missing in all three timelines. I'm wondering if somehow they're all connected, because something that... This is his name again. Oh my word, I'm horrible with names. I think it's Nick says is that monsters are ages, they don't age, and Minerva was asking if it could be a serial killer or something, so... And if it was from the 1930s, he'd probably be dead. So, I was wondering if there is something weird happening, if all of these missing persons cases are somehow connected. And with Minerva, she had to wake Conrad up, and she's not being like charmed by him, and she thinks he's getting his revenge, but when someone puts grease paint on the house she's living in on campus, and then someone tries to, I guess, squeeze her between the stacks and kill her. So yeah, I am intrigued to see if he is somehow involved in this. Well, I did take a quick look, and it's the Abba's brother's name is Taddeo. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. Yeah, I'm still intrigued. I guess, like, I'm just wondering how this will unfold, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. And how near me was doing one of the churches was hosting a tag zone, the library was hosting a book sale, and I didn't buy anything at a tag sale. Honestly, yesterday kind of spoiled me with how beautiful a lot of pieces over there in the other town was. But a book sale, I did get some books. I didn't take off the like stickers to say the price, and that's what I'm doing with this right now. But the first book I got was Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Next up, and with this one, I was definitely intrigued, but people's fault in it. The next one I got was the bookbinder by Pip Williams. It says it cost me $5. I did read the Dictionary of Lost Words by her years back, and I really liked that one. And finally, the last one I got was Mayfly by C.J. Reed. Which cost me $2, so I'm very much intrigued about all these books, of course. And I also did some more grocery shopping because I kind of forgot some bits yesterday, and yeah. But I did also do some reading of The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and I'm on page 190, and I'm liking it. With Abba, she and Valentine, they go to, I guess, the community of where the witches live, and she worries she'll be ridiculed when her uncle finds out that she did that, because he's someone who, I guess, would have more modern beliefs, and it seems like her mother also shares his beliefs. It was her father who was the one who believed in the older ways. And Valentine takes her to, which will give her a charm or something to protect herself. Alba is starting to believe that something is out to get her family when she does this old thing, I guess, where you put a bowl of water with a pair of scissors under her bed. And when she woke up, the scissors were extremely rusted, so that was her sign that something was out to get the family. And the witch, they warn her that there is, I guess, a group of witches who almost like to play with their victims, slowly take their blood to prolong the torture before, run away, I guess. And yeah, and Alba buys the charm, and it seems like she had charms throughout her life to protect herself and her family from witches. And so that's the beginning. And also we do see Virginia's final days, weeks really, after we learn about the seance and Halloween, how it did draw in a spirit who gave Virginia not so great news, and everyone thinks she faked it. She just starts acting weird and almost off, almost skittish, like she worries something is following her. And also Beatrice does notice she is talking sometimes to Santiago, the boy she was rumored to have run away with. And yeah, it seems like at one point Virginia even had a dead rat in her room, and it freaked her out. Like, Virginia was so adamant that something was out to get her, and it seems like now that thing is out to get Minerva, because Minerva also feels like someone is out to get her by like spraying her rooms, not rooms, but the house she's living in. And the picture is read, a dead rat was left in her room, just like with Virginia. So I'm wondering if it's the same entity that's hunting both women. And yeah, I'm just intrigued, I guess. So yeah, and I think that's it for this week. So yeah, that's the end of this vlog. And if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below, tell me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video. Bye.